I was doing it where I was doing stand-up and had a full-time job.
Yeah.
And that's the way to do it.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm supporting myself with my job and doing stand-up. And your whole goal at this age, I'm 26, 27, is to get with one of the big management companies.
Yeah.
Even more so than an agent, because the managers in stand-up,
because they do like bookings and stuff.
well, the managers are like, the big ones hold so much power, and they're able to, they can really make things happen for comics. They're connected to those agents.
Yeah.
They're connected to the festivals. They know all the executives at the networks. They know the director. So when I got signed by a big time management company, I was like, oh man, it's like, and this was like who everyone was saying, like, you got to try to get with these people. I was like really feeling myself.
Yeah.
I was supposed to start on a new show. I was working in post-production, and this was going to be like a pretty big post you work in for set runs. Like this would be a 12-week or 16-week kind of run. And I got a promotion, and they were going to give me overtime for the first time.
Yeah.
And they would work us like dogs. And I just walked into my post supervisor, and I was like, hey man, this thing happened yesterday. I signed with a manager. I was like, so I'm not going to be able to.
Like I've made it.
I've made it because I have a manager.
Yeah.
And then I remember I was like, yeah. He goes, oh, you have an audition for this movie tomorrow? It's the first time I had like a big audition. And I was like, yeah, I quit my job. And he goes, what? And I go, I quit my job. He goes, why? And I go, because I'm working with you now. And he was like, oh, okay. Well, we'll see how that goes. Like, he didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I just cut my life support.
No, I feel like I accidentally did that. Like I bought my first house like with my pay stubs, not my like 1099.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like a regular person living life, and then I had this artistic thing on the side that eventually overtook it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you want to give yourself as much runway as possible. And I don't think people understand. It's like if you blow up your life to pursue this thing, which sometimes you have to do to get out of stuff. Sure. But it's like, you're not going to have the leverage to not do shit that you don't want to do or that you shouldn't do because you don't have any money and you literally need to live. Like I got offered the first book. My first sort of offer to do a book came in like 2008 or 2009. Oh, and the which I ultimately did with The Obstacle Is the Way. But The Obstacle Is the Way didn't come out until 2014.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay.
And Robert Greene, who was my sort of mentor, was like, you have to turn this down. And I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, first off, it's a shitty deal. Like, they're offering you no money up front. It's not like a big publisher. Like, he's like, but that all aside, content-wise, like, you're not ready to do this. And that was extremely hard. Like, you're getting your shot, and I have to like be like, I'll wait for a later shot that might not come around.
It's the hardest thing.
It was so hard, but he was totally right, because if I'm now looking back at The Obstacle and What Is the Way, and I'm like, I'm a little young. Mm-hmm. It would have been insane to write that at 22 or something like that.
You're lucky that he told you, but you're luckier that you listened.
Yes.
And it's I remember a very similar lesson. Everything was, there was a period where now it's like specials come out every week and you can self-produce, and it's easier to, and it's fantastic for those comedians and also for stand-up comedy. It's great that you have so much coming out, but some people shouldn't be putting them out.
Yes.
What happened before specials was albums, right? Yeah. And so in like the early 2000s, is like, as albums were the hottest probably in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then it's a slow thing. It aligned with music where like album sales just started to decline.
Yeah, but there were people who had like #1 album. There were some big people.
Big ones. So I remember right when I was like, I'm probably only, that's why it was good that I listened also. I was like 5 years in maybe. And I was working this weekend with Dave Attell, who's like, he's every comic's favorite. I mean, my favorite comedian of all time. I mean, he's amazing. And I was a huge fan.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe I was working with him. And throughout the weekend, we're like, just talking about this and that. And I was like, I'm trying to figure out whether I should do it. I think I should do an album, You think I should do an album? And he goes, do you have an hour you're in love with? And I go, no. Right. And he was like, I think there's your answer. He just kind of walked away. And I was like, oh yeah, like just because somebody goes, you can record one doesn't mean like that's literally when you should go, let's record or let's shoot this is when you go, oh, this is fully cooked and ready to go. And anything other than that, like people are getting now these opportunities to shoot these things. And you're like, hey man, like, have you even been working this hour?
Yeah, sure.
Like it's not ready.
Seneca had this word, euthymia, which he said is the sense of the path that you're on. And he said, not being distracted by the paths that crisscross yours, especially from those who are hopelessly lost.
Ooh.
And that's extremely hard to have at any age. Like, but I think younger, you know, you're like, well, someone's doing this and someone's doing this because you're measuring yourself against all these other people. But then as you become successful, now all of a sudden there's all these things that you can do.
Yeah.
And it takes an immense amount of discipline. I think also confidence, just like sort of self-awareness and sort of strategy to go like, here are the things I want to do. Here's when I want to do them. And like not really paying attention to what other people are doing or everything that's coming, you know, into your inbox.
It takes all those things, right?
Yeah.
And then because you also, that comparison thing, it also just shifts. You just compare yourself to new people, more successful people, people who are doing incredible things. But I also feel like you get this, if you're not too caught up in that chase and in your own ego and everything, you actually learn to like really settle into the fact that you intellectually grasp like, oh, like I'm not comparing myself to what Ryan's doing, whatever he just did, like he's on his own path. And you kind of get this thing where you're like, you find that it doesn't make you go like, what about me?
Yes.
Like, you know, like I did do that at 25. And like now when I hear about that, I don't go like, like, what am I going to do? You know, like,
well, it's also helpful to realize, like some people are profoundly unhappy and then other people don't like doing the thing. So like I try to remind myself, like, I like writing.
Yeah.
I like writing books. That's what I enjoy doing. So I didn't get into writing as a means to an end to do something else. That is the end.
That is the end. Yeah.
And so, yes, there's definitely different opportunities and different ways to monetize it. And some of that helps you do the thing. But if I'm like, well, so-and-so just started a company or so-and-so's speaking this many dates a year, I go, that's all great. But my main thing was writing. Like the reward for getting successful at this thing should not be that I don't get to do the thing anymore.
Right.
If the reward for me is doing the thing.
Yeah.
If you hate it, like I'm sure there's stand-up comics who are good at stand-up comedy, but they love acting.
Yeah.
Or they love writing or whatever. So for them, they're getting in and then they're getting out.
Yeah, totally.
But if you don't want to get out, don't follow the people who are getting out or you're going to get out and be unhappy.
I've seen both examples. It's fascinating to watch because you can tell the ones who like the first acting thing that comes on, they're like, I'll see you guys later. And they're fine because they're happy with that.
Yeah.
What's more interesting almost is the people who turn down some of those opportunities that come when you have stand-up success.
Yeah.
And you're like, you don't want to do, and they're like, I don't want to do that shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, really? You almost can't believe it at first because we're all brought up. Now it's shifted.
Yeah.
So if you're in your 20s now doing stand-up, you don't have the same kind of model that we had. But our model was like, you do stand-up so that you can get a sitcom. That was the win. Now people turn down those things left and right.
But you're also definitely not supposed to say no to things that could pay you a lot of money.
Sure.
That's stupid, irresponsible.
The other thing, though, that is crazy that some people still are unaware of is that high level, big time touring comedians make way more money.
Sure.
And even like some of those talent agents who represent actors are just kind of learning this. They're like, yeah, you know, like, that comedian is going to lose money doing your thing.
Yeah.
Lose.
Yeah.
Like he has to really want to do it, you know?